Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. There we go. There we go. That seems like a proper response. I want to thank our partners for coming this week. I'm truly humbled by the response we received for our first ever Logicom Connect. I hope by now most of you know what our goal is here, and that's to assist you in growing your business. We look at your business as if it were our own. We treat your members as if they were our members. It's been standard operating procedure at Logicom to train our employees, our new hires, on the electricity story and where you guys came from. The similarities that you guys are facing today that your predecessors faced with electricity for high-speed internet. We share the same goals, and that's to get rural America connected so they're afforded the same opportunities than that of urban and suburban areas. The AT&Ts, Verizons of the world decided rural America wouldn't turn enough of a profit to invest in your rural areas. I'd like to thank our partner sponsors for assisting us in putting on this event for all of you. We believe right outside these doors are some great people to work with on a fiber project. I hope you all enjoy your time here in beautiful Destin. We have 2 days of education and hopefully a little fun as well. I want to tell you how hard I worked to put this show on, but I'd be lying. So I want to give a big thanks to Nick Jones for putting this together so that we can enjoy this fellowship. Thanks again for being here with us, and without further ado, I'd like to bring up our Vice President of Business Development, Mr. Nick Jones.
Hey, I need a clicker. I am super excited that you guys showed up. I say that because I hope I get to keep my job after Bobby sees the bill for this thing this week. But, you know, I got a little bit of nervous about this thing as we, really just less than about 57 days ago decided that we were going to do this. The response has just been absolutely amazing. So really to kind of psych myself up, I started watching Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. About the 50th time that I watched that movie, I realized that the quote was wrong. If you build it, he will come. And then I got really nervous. I was like, who's going to show? And so I was kind of thinking about it. Well, except for Bonnie Beatty, I don't know where she is. She signed up before we even had the idea to have the show. But, so I'm getting nervous, and so I harassed a lot of you on text message. I texted Parton over here. I said, hey, you coming? He was like, why? You worried nobody's going to show? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm good. In my mind, I'm wondering where that van is to go pick up James Earl Jones, just to get anybody to show up. If you don't get that joke, watch the movie. Elliot, where you are, watch a sports movie, right? So we're super excited that you're here, not just because you showed up to the show, but because of what you represent, what you mean. When you think about all the different states, all the different towns, all the different communities that you guys represent, it's really humbling to think about that and to think about the change that's happening across rural America because of what you guys are doing. Logicom now has grown to representing or partnering with over 16 utilities in 5 states across the southeastern United States. That's just amazing. It's humbling for us to be a part of, and we're just so thankful to what you guys are doing and what you represent. I did a little quick math. You represent somewhere around 544,000 meters. I don't know how many people that equates to, how many households that equates to. You guys probably know, better than I do. But that's just amazing to think about. It's humbling to think about, and we're excited that you're here. As Bobby said, we have a lot of things going on the next couple of days. We hope that it's going to be helpful. We hope that it's going to be educational. And really, that's what I hope for you. If you leave here with nothing else, I hope you leave with 2 things. 1, that you're encouraged, and 2, that you're informed. We tried to put some things together about what we're doing as a company. We're going to get to that in a moment. Where we're going, some things that we've done over the past year. And we've also tried to bring in some other folks just to help. Because it's always good to get together, to talk about things, to hear ideas, to share information so that we can all do better at what we're trying to do. Bobby also mentioned that we have some great vendors here with us today. So I'm going to bring up a couple of our guys, and throughout the conference, we're going to do some vendor spotlights where we're going to share with you who our sponsors are, kind of a little bit about what they do, and we're going to do that now. So I'm going to ask Dustin and Chris to come up now, if they wouldn't mind.
Good morning, guys. So the first one is going to be Adtran. From cloud edge to subscriber edge, Adtran helps communication service providers around the world manage and scale gigabit fiber services that connect people, places, and things to advance human progress. As the leading provider of broadband access and aggregation platforms, Adtran offers the broadest portfolio of 10 gigabytes per second capable fiber access and gigabit fiber extension solutions, complemented by a complete suite of connected home solutions. And most importantly, they're our dinner sponsor tomorrow night. Thanks, Adtran.
And next is Comstar Supply. Comstar Supply is a national distributor of outside plant product and expertise for telecommunications and utility industries. Since its founding in 1994, the company has built an extensive inventory of industry-leading suppliers to help deliver high-speed broadband and power networks. Through its facilities in Philadelphia and Raleigh, the company serves as a diverse customer base, including contractors, broadband and electric utilities, transportation and government entities. The company has built an experienced management team with extensive telecom and OSP knowledge in distribution, manufacturing, marketing, and customer care to support its end-user customers, with a goal of providing the communication industry with necessary materials to supply complete products in a timely and cost-effective manner. Comstar is a uniquely positioned as a true distributor partner.
Walker & Associates is the premier distributor of telecommunications products for network operators, simplifying network deployments with expert installation, systems integration, and managed services. The products support technologies such as switching, routing, wireless, NFV, carrier Ethernet, VoIP, WDM, ROADM, packet optical networking, SDN, access technologies, active Ethernet, and more. And they're also our putt-putt and ice cream sponsor.
As we said, we just couldn't do this without our sponsors. They've been a huge help. These three, as we've mentioned, will be sponsoring our meals and then our ice cream. Looking forward to that this afternoon. The putt-putt and ice cream challenge will be across the hall over here in the Emerald Ballroom. So I think there's some prizes for that to see, who can putt the best. We'll find out. So I want to go over a couple of things really quickly before we move into kind of our opening session, just to let you know about some things that are going on as far as the agenda today. Here in just a moment, we're going to have some information about what we're doing as a company, followed by this next session. We'll take about a 5 to 10 minute break. The reason is because Brian O'Hara with NRECA is going to join us via Zoom for that next session, just because he's not allowed to travel yet, but he's agreed to be with us and talk a little bit about what's going on with RDOF, some of the new funding coming out, and just all the things that are going to help you in your project. So we're excited about that and looking forward to that. Following that session, we'll have lunch here in this room. It'll be set up similar to breakfast this morning. When we come back from lunch, we're going to have a couple of breakout sessions. One of those will be in here, and one of those will be in the room behind you there. And then later this afternoon, we'll have a panel discussion with some of our CEOs to just kind of share ideas and talk about some lesson learned kinds of things. So looking forward to that. Following that will be our putt-putt and ice cream challenge, and then you will be dismissed for the evening to kind of do dinner on your own, spend some time with sponsors, et cetera, whatever you guys have planned. So looking forward to a great day, excited about a lot of things, and like I said, just excited that you're here, that you wanted to come be a part of this with us, the first ever Logicom USA Connect Conference. So maybe in 20 years you can say you were there when it all started. So we're excited about that and looking forward to a great day. We're going to transition real quick. I'm going to ask Jeff and Jamie to come on up, and then we'll get into our next session. When I was 16 years old, just like any American teenage boy, I wanted that first truck, right? If you think about when you were growing up, you got that first ride, everybody remembers what that first ride was. If I was to ask anybody in here, what did you drive first? Somebody might have driven a Pinto, might have been an old truck, it might have been a car, it might have been, grandma's station wagon. I don't know what that was that you got. But for me, it was a 1987 Ford F-250 with a granny low 4-speed in it. Top speed was a blazing 82 miles an hour. That's all it would do. It got 10.5 miles to the gallon. I love that old truck. It was beat up, it was ugly, but it was my first ride. It was freedom. $3,300. I bought that truck, put me a Jensen stereo in it. I found a speaker box at a flea market that I put behind the seat. I had my ball caps around the stick shift. I was cruising. I even had my bag cell phone on the seat beside me. And I'm driving around town holding that thing to my ear. And I wasn't talking to anybody, right? Because it wasn't after 9 p.m. So if I actually made a phone call, my mother would have killed me. It was like, do not make a phone call unless you're like bleeding or dying or a bone is sticking out. Do not use this phone. But that truck was awesome to me. It was the greatest thing that I had ever, gotten to that point in my life. But that old truck, as much as I loved her, she cost me a lot of money. She cost me a lot of heartache. Probably a lot of it was self-inflicted. A clutch, I remember being about $500. I found out very quickly the gas gauge didn't work when I got stranded out in the middle of nowhere. Had to put a lot of different things on it. At one point blew the motor up. That truck probably ended up being about a $15,000 truck when all was said and done, which is a lot of money for a teenage kid working at the lumber shed. But the thing that I had with that truck was a guy named Smitty. You imagine any small town mechanic, and you've probably all seen him. Well, my guy was Smitty. That's who it was. When I'd break that truck, when I'd tear that truck up, or when that truck just did something that I didn't know what it was doing, I went down and saw old Smitty. And Smitty was the kindest old man that you'd ever saw. See me coming a mile away, he would help me. He was a guide. He was a resource. He was somebody that I could go to with that old truck. He was somebody that I could ask questions, and he took all the time in the world for me that he didn't have to take. But for whatever reason, he was kind of that guy for me. This session that we're about to do right now, we want to talk to you about where we're going as a company. Over the last year, a lot of different things have happened. We've seen a greater need with the pandemic for connection, for what rural America needs, and we want to continue to be a part of that. We want to continue to partner with you and be that guide, be kind of, Smitty for you. Be somebody that you can go to when you have challenges, when you have struggles, when you have questions. We just want to be that resource. Now, I also want to say, as we get into some of the things that we're going to talk about in this session, that this is not a sales pitch this morning. That's not what this is about. We know that a lot of things that we're going to talk about, you have some vendors and partners and folks that you're working with on some of those things. That's okay. But as our partners, as our family, as part of the Logicom family, we want you to know what we're doing. We want you to know where we're going. We want you to know the resources that we have available to you if those needs arise. If you need a Smitty, if you need some help, if you need somebody to go to, we want you to know what we're doing, and we want you to hear it from us. And so that's really all this is this morning, is just to kind of share with you where we're going, what we're doing, and what we're going to be about as a company moving forward. Still going to do voice, still going to do support, do all those things that we've always done for you. We just want to grow. We want to continue to grow as a company, continue to grow our resource base internally. In doing so over the last year, we've hired a lot of new folks that bring a lot of great passion. They bring a lot of great expertise, a lot of great knowledge to the fiber world. And so a couple of those here are with me this morning, Jeff Crowe and Jamie Salata. And so I want to introduce them to you. Jeff has about 30 years of experience in the telecom industry. What that means is Jeff's old. And so he's been around a while. He's done this for a while. He graduated from Mississippi College. He began his professional career at LDDS, Regional Telecom. Then he went on to work for C-Spire. In 2019, he entered the fiber to the home arena with electric cooperatives and municipalities. He's worked on 5 different cooperatives across the country, working with them, helping them in vendor selection, overseeing and resolving any issues that come up with anything that might come up in a project with construction, etc. He's also now holds a position as our VP of Operations, and so we're glad to have Jeff with us this morning, and thankful for all the things that he does. Also, Jamie Salata is our Director of Project Management. She has about 14 years of experience in the technology industry. She graduated from Murray State University. She began project management at Adtran, and then as an innovative network access product manufacturer. And in 2007, she successfully managed a wide range of projects, also managed a group of project managers at Adtran, dedicated to supporting Adtran's customers, networks, et cetera, in that time, and continues to have that same kind of mindset. Jamie is just, she's details, details, details. If you want to know what's going on and how things are working, Jamie's your girl. So we appreciate having them with us this morning. And we're just going to do a little bit of Q&A and talk to them, and I'll let them share some things, and hopefully that'll be helpful. But as we move forward in our plans as a company, we're going to be doing more project management type things, network type things, all the things that help you do what you're doing and help those that are looking to get into projects do what they would like to do to help connect their communities. That's just where we want to go as a company, as a family, and as a team, and work with our partners to help you continue that dream of what you're trying to do. Because for us, that's a big deal. That's important, and we believe in that dream. And so thankful to have these guys with us this morning. So one of the things that I hear a lot when I talk to co-ops and I talk to these guys, and I think I've heard Jeff say this phrase about 1,000 times over, you don't know what you don't know. So Jeff, as mentioned, you're old and have a lot of experience, right? Sorry, I couldn't help it.
Nick, I have a live microphone, so.
That's true, that's true. So you have a lot of experience in telecom and also working with utilities. It seems that one of the biggest things that people run into and utilities run into is that you don't know what you don't know. What are some things that you have seen in your time that often get overlooked when utilities trying to do a project like this?
Well, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. Just about everybody in here is doing a project or moving through the process of it, and some of them I've worked, hand in hand with. Mr. Ronnie, for one, we used to talk about it all the time. This was just the overall magnitude of what they're taking on when they do it, and just having to learn the different processes of moving through the project, and from material to construction and electronics. To me, the biggest part of it is the electronics, the network part. It always seems to be the one that the folks don't understand the most, and it's as they move through and they pick it up. But just the magnitude of starting something from scratch and just moving through that piece of it, to me, is once you get it to a process where what your steps are, I feel like it is a little bit better. But just getting to understand everything about what you're having to start off with, and keeping that focus on those things.
So one of the things that I struggle with, Jeff, is just understanding the right questions to ask, understanding where to get that information, and then also just sometimes the lingo. when you think about that aspect of a project, what are some of those things that come up in your mind as you kind of, talk with folks, or what are some of those questions that they ask early on that you feel like you probably had to answer, 1,000 times over?
What is fiber? What's it look like? Just going through the different. The main part, in the beginning, to me, it's always from a material standpoint. What do they need? And then going to, splice cases, and there's so many different products out there, and just trying to help them focus on exactly what material they want to use, and where to get it from is a big thing, and when to get it, and how much to order, and it's, from a technology standpoint, it's pretty cut and dry. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and just trying to help them focus in on exactly what material they want to use, what products they want to use, and where they want to get them from. The biggest part to me, or the interesting part to me in the very beginning of one that I always thought was funny, and it's different because each place, has a different mindset, but just the way it looks on the pole, what size H bracket to use? Do I use a big one? Do I use a little one? Do I use snowshoes? Those different things, and just trying to help them, figure out what's best for their system and how they want it to look on their poles is always, that was always an interesting part of it to me, because there's so many different ideas. Everybody in this room has a different idea how they want their system to work, or look on the pole, and it's, stuff like that.
You said something there, best for their system. What do you mean by that?
There's no cookie cutter approach to it to me. It depends on what a particular individual or a particular co-op, wants. And sometimes it's a group of people within that co-op that have ideas of what they want. Sometimes it's just one person that have ideas of what they want. But, everybody's different. And, to try to just give them one way to do it to me is problematic, because, they need to know what's best for them. So you bring different perspectives to it and offer up different situations. And what I always say is you bring them suggestions, and then you just kind of stand in a corner and wait for questions, whatever they're going to have questions about, whatever part of it you're doing it, whether it's electronics, material, a vendor, a contractor, whoever, whatever. You gather all this information, give them choices, and just kind of sit back in the corner and answer whatever questions they may have about, whatever particular topic is going on. And if you just kind of keep driving it best to just back to what's best for them, what's easiest for them, because at some point, it's theirs. So cater it to their specific needs or their specific wants, because they're the ones that are going to have to take it over and run with it forever and pass it on down to somebody else, and teach them, school them on how to do what they're going through. So we have to make it best for that particular co-op or that particular location.
That's one of the things I appreciate about Jeff is when he says that, he means that. You can see that in how he works every day and the things that he tries to do. The people that he works with, the co-op leaders that he works with, the CFOs, the VPs, the general managers, whoever that may be, like, he genuinely wants them to, be successful, get the right answers to the questions, as he said, because this is a legacy for you guys. And that's important, I think, to all of us, when we're trying to help you. Yes, we're all, trying to make a dollar, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make a difference while we're making a dollar, that at the end of this path, this journey that we're on, we can look back and say, we actually did something worthwhile in this. And so I really appreciate that attitude that Jeff has, and that I want to give what's, best for this co-op. Sometimes that's not always even what's best for Logicom. And I appreciate that attitude, because it means that we're really trying to hold true to what we say we are doing. Jamie, so when I think about Jamie, I just think, like I said, details, details, details. And when you talk to her about this stuff, she gets excited. My eyes glaze over and I want to go to sleep. Like, I tell my wife all the time, she was a finance major in college. I said, baby, I married you to take care of the bank account, because otherwise I would go broke. I can't do that much math. It just hurts my head. But You know, Jamie's one of those people that she just lights up when she starts thinking about, tracking stuff and keeping things going. So when you think about a project, Jamie, just the amount of details that go in, I'm not, like Jeff said, I'm preaching to the choir. You guys know this. The amount of details is just ginormous. It's massive. When you think about network issues, installation of services, engineering, it's just a plethora of things. You like that word? Plethora. I got that out of Reader's Digest, Power Words. Just saying. So it's just a plethora of things that come into this. And with your plethora of experience and tracking, what advantages do you see that come from having that kind of tracking and project management and just attention to detail?
I don't know if this is on. Yeah. At the end of the day, I think everybody realizes that the projects are huge. There are so many moving pieces at exactly the same time. So trying to be able to make sure your material's good, your material's there, construction's good, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're going where they need to go, that you can open DAs so that you can get your customers and your members up. It's a lot of moving pieces. And so whenever you're able to track that and be able to see where things are, it really lets you make financial decisions. It lets you make management decisions. You can, kind of steer another direction if you need to. It lets you know where you may need to market. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that goes on simultaneous in a project that it just kind of helps watch it all.
So when you see this, from a utility perspective, from a cost and time saving standpoint, how does that help?
Yeah, so if you're doing all of this well and watching all of this, you'll find those red flags where it can cost you money, and you'll make sure that you're not going to members' houses to do an install when, the MST's not even been hung outside of their house, the drop's not done. So a lot of this, just being able to make sure that everything is going the way that it should be, it saves your member satisfaction, it saves time and money. You'll also be able to see, where you may need to market more, so that you can focus on areas that maybe just aren't getting the message out. It's a lot to do, but it definitely helps.
So when you're working through a project and you're going through this just tedious amounts of data and information, for you, where does that drive come from? I mean, because, that would just, the sound of that makes me miserable, right? But, what for you makes that worth your time and effort?
At the end of the day, I mean, it's the community and the members. I mean, that's what you're doing it for, so you want to make sure they have a good experience. You want to make sure that they, they don't get frustrated, that they know what's going on, that all of this can go the best way possible, because I think all of most of your members are frustrated with the AT&Ts and the big box companies that just don't care about them. So at the end of the day, you just want to show them that you do care, and that this is for them and the community that they live in. And you kind of don't see that or realize that kind of sometimes when you're in the middle of the project, until you look at social media and you see how appreciative that the communities are for it.
One of the cool things about my job is that I get to come to all the places that you guys live and that you work, and I get to eat in restaurants, and I get to go to the store and stay in hotels and just be sometimes amongst the people that you guys are working with. And a lot of times you'll have a shirt on or something like that, and they'll see what's Logicom? Y'all with the co-op? Y'all with the electric company down there? Are y'all helping do that fiber? Yeah, and then you get to see that. And as I said before, 544,000 meters. I don't know how many people that represents. Y'all, I need somebody to figure that out for me. But that's a lot of people. That's a lot of faces. That's a lot of families. That's a lot of homes. That's just a lot of people that are impacted by that project. I won't ever forget early on in my time at Logicom, we were in Waverly with Meriwether Lewis, and we stopped by the local library, and the librarian was telling us about Some of y'all heard me tell the story before, but telling us about all the kids that get off the bus every day to fight over, like, was it 4 computers, something like that, because it was either there or sit at McDonald's to do their homework. And so they're sitting there for 4 or 5 hours waiting on a computer to do 10 minutes of homework. And now, you know, because of what Keith and his team are doing, they get to go home at the end of the day, do a little bit of homework, and then go be a kid. And I think to me that's just, you know, massive. And the things that Jamie's talking about, you know, the more things you can get right, the more things that you can track, the more processes that you can keep under control, the more time you save, the more money you save, and ultimately the further your project is able to go. So, I mean, that's just, it's an awesome thing, and I'm thankful that she has the heart to want to do those things, because I don't want to do them. And I appreciate that so much about her. Jeff, you know, when you start to see light, and this is not like, you know, the light as you're laying on your deathbed, but you know, that light as you're going through the tunnel, you know, because I know that as you guys are facing these projects, you know, that sometimes it's great, and sometimes there's great stories about how well things are going, and how this family was helped by fiber, and this helped my job, and this helped my grandma go to a doctor's appointment, those types of things. But there's also some tough days, right? There's challenging days with the things that you didn't expect. There's the days that stuff doesn't go wrong. But hopefully as you get into the project and you're starting to move, maybe you start to see that finish line, you start to see the end of the tunnel. And so, Jeff, I want to ask you, as you kind of get to the point where a lot of these folks actually are in their projects, you know, a year or 2 in, 3 years in, maybe, you know, just kind of started with, you know, got 200 or 300 subscribers right now. What are some challenges that you see that they should be focusing on in their project? What are some milestones that they should be hitting? And what are some things that they need to be thinking on towards the maturity of their project?
Momentum, to me, at the halfway point, momentum is huge. You start off with, you know, waiting on designs being done. You picked your contractors, you've got material that's sitting on the yard. You got, you know, 3, 4, 5 months before you start construction. That's a very difficult time, because folks are antsy and they want to get going. That's, to me, the second most difficult time is right smack dab in the middle of it. When you're close to being through, there's so many factors that you have to come into play. Jamie and I were talking about this the other day. You've got all this material in the warehouse that your vendor has brought in, and it's sitting there, and you know, you don't want that material, all of it, when you're through, right? You want some of it to maintain what you have, but you don't want it all. So you have to start thinking about, you know, downsizing that material. Start to forecast what you feel like you're going to need at the end of the project. So you can be a good friend to your partner from a vendor standpoint, and you know, allow them to be able to pull that material out and get it to other people that are doing projects. But that momentum, to me, is the key. You get to the point, me and Mr. Ronnie were just talking about this morning, and it made me laugh, because I thought, you know, I knew that's what I was going to talk about on this particular thing. We cheated. Nick gave us the questions early, but it just made me laugh, because Mr. Ronnie and I were talking, and he said, well, you know, I'm just trying to keep everybody focused. To me, that's huge, because as you move through it, it's not new to you anymore, because you've been doing it for a year or 2 years or whatever, depending on how long your project is. But there's a member in that last DA that it's new to them for. So you want to have as much momentum at the end as you had in the beginning to try to deliver the best that you can to them. And like she was talking about tracking, you know, tracking is so important, because if you maintain, you know, what she is passionate about with tracking and make sure everything's done, then that last member that you sign up or hook up is going to have the same experience as the first member. So it's momentum to me at the midway point and towards the end of the project. It's just staying focused, keeping your vendors focused, keeping your partners focused, your contractor focused, making sure that, you know, that they're, you know, I don't know where some of the construction guys are, but as the project starts to wrap up, they're looking at where they're going to send their guys next too, you know. So you got to stay on them to make sure that they're focused on finishing strong for you, and making sure that that last pole looks like that first pole. But to me, just maintaining focus and awareness of where you're at in the project, and staying upbeat, keeping your members, you know, informed, keeping your employees upbeat, because excuse me, they've taken on an awful lot of work, and you know, they can get tired, they can get beat down and worn out, and just making sure that everybody is staying positive, from, you know, your employee to your vendors, your contractors, everybody, just keeping everybody on the same page and pushing through to get to that finish line, and just momentum is just, I can't say it enough, is key to me.
So one of the things that that you realize very quickly in the utility world is that every utility, every cooperative, every municipality is different. You know, they have different people, they have different staff, and they have, you know, different ways of doing it, you know, from one extreme to the other. And you mentioned, you know, the employees and adding the job. What's kind of been the message, you know, in your time that you give to not just the high level, but you tend to spend a lot of time with different folks within, you know, the utility. What do you tell them, Jeff, about that, you know, kind of keeping that focus? What's your message to them?
You know, it's really hard to give them a message at that point, to me. Just making sure that, making sure they understand what their role is, whatever their role has been assigned to them by that general manager, or whoever's over the project, making sure they understand that. And, you know, you want to move out of that, whoever you're working with, whoever you're partnered with, whoever you're helping, you want to move out of that, make sure that they know how to do what they need to do to maintain what they've got. I don't know if that made any sense. It didn't make any sense coming out of my mouth, but
We
it
always say
did
that,
in my
you know,
head.
when you first get to a co-op or wherever, you know, you're taking that step back every single day
Yes.
about your responsibility to make sure that co-op takes over that responsibility,
Yeah.
because they're going to have to, at the end of the day, you know, support it. And so that's everybody there, and they are the ones that go to the diners and stuff, and they're going to get, you know, asked questions and stopped, and, you know, I see you're wearing this hat, you know, and so it's important that they all understand how important it is too.
Yeah, and they're also going to be the ones that, when are you getting to my house? And then when it breaks, you know, why is it breaking? You know, so they're going to get those things well. So I think about the term, you know, what it sounds like you're saying is ownership. You're trying to give utility ownership.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you go in there and you do everything all the time, and you don't share, you don't teach, you don't pass on what you know from experience to you know, a lineman, so to speak. Linemen are always scared. You guys know this. Linemen are always scared of fiber. They're scared to death of it because they don't, various reasons, you know, depending on the co-op, but they're always worried about it, and people are afraid of what they don't know, right? I mean, they're used to power, you know, they're afraid of fiber. I tell them, you know, it's not going to kill you, right? It's just, you're going to hang it on the pole just like you would hang anything else. So, you know, it's just sharing knowledge with them, making sure that, you know, from a CSR standpoint, making sure they understand how to answer the questions, because they're the ones that are going to be talking to the member. They're the ones that are going to be fielding when you coming to my house, when you coming to my house, what's going on here, what's going on there. So you have to just sharing everything that you know, and the experience that you've picked up along the way at different co-ops, and just making sure that everybody understands everything about what their piece of it is. You don't want to just drown them with all the information, but their individual piece, share with them and make sure that they understand what their role is going to be going forward. To me, that's huge. You know, you're eventually going to leave that co-op, right? You're going to move on and move out of it and go somewhere else and do whatever, however that works. But, you know, you have got to be able to share with that particular individual or individuals about how to maintain what you've been doing for them. And the stepping back is exactly right. I mean, you start off doing 100%, and then you start to slowly pull back and make sure they don't. My biggest fear was to leave a place and them not understand what to do next, how to handle a situation, because it's their business. I always got nervous working at co-ops, because the general manager decides to take on this project, and he has to answer, or she has to answer to a board. And if it doesn't go well, and there's a member uprising, and that board gets voted out, and a new board comes in, and then they just start to clean house because somebody was associated with it. That always made me nervous. I always felt, responsible to a certain degree for the management of that co-op to make sure that everything was going the way it should go, because it's scary to me, because I've never worked for a group of people that were voted in by another group of people and then can just up and revote folks in and go, you know what, get out of here. So I always felt responsible to that, especially that general manager. And I've worked with some of these folks in here, and you build a relationship with them, and you build a bond, and it always just made me want to work a little bit harder to make sure that everything was going okay. A general manager, I would call him, that's my guy. And I have to take care of my guy, no matter what. That's my guy. That's my boss. I have to take care of him. It always made me want to do a little bit more. And sometimes I would put myself in a position where towards the end of it, I was doing too much, and I'd have to remind myself to back out. And I don't know. It's like raising a child. Some of you general managers, you got to kind of just let them go out on their own and kind of test the waters. But I always want to get them to the point where they're running it themselves and it's theirs, and they're comfortable doing that.
One of the things that I have always appreciated about, kind of the Logicom way, and this is, goes back to Bobby and the rest of our leadership and really everybody, down through the company, is that our mindset has always been, we don't succeed unless, you succeed. We've always tried to kind of operate our business that way, so that in order for us ultimately to, have a paycheck at the end of the day, we have to make sure that you guys are succeeding, and that drives us to be, customer focused, partner focused, and make sure that we're, trying to give you the resources. It's no different in this area of work and thinking about project management and network solutions and those types of things. We want that same thing. And it goes back to where we started with the truck and with Smitty. Any movie, any story that you watch, there's always, the hero of the movie, and then there's the guide. We're not looking to be the hero in your story. That's you. That's what we want for you. We just want to be that, Mr. Miyagi on the side to help you, in that, wax on, wax off, whatever. We want to be that for you. We want to be that resource. And when Jeff says that, that's something that holds true across our culture, because it matters to us. We, lose lots of sleep at night thinking about, how can we help? How can we be a resource? How do we help them through, this challenge? And I hope that's, as long as I'm wearing this logo, and I think these guys feel the same way, and pretty much everybody standing in this room, that's what we're going to be about as a company. Is helping you make that difference, helping you be successful, giving you the tools and the resources that you need to do what you've set out to do, because it is a very big deal. Every time I walk through your utilities, I see the history, of where it started with a few guys in a truck and a couple of poles and some, wires, and no idea what they were doing, but they went out and did it. And it changed your whole community. It changed the future of the places that you live. And it's really humbling to think about sometimes. I want you guys to comment on that. It's humbling sometimes to think about we get to be a part of that. We get to be a part of something that is really going to be, history in this country. I don't know if either of you guys want to comment on that.
I grew up in Western Kentucky, and so, I experienced this. My mother still has DSL to this day. It's different for my kids growing up in Huntsville, who we probably could pick 10 different, providers for things. And so you don't necessarily realize the impact if you haven't lived it, if you haven't, seen it and drove through there. Some of the places that you go and you're like, you're driving through and you see, how it's so rural, so far from everything else, and it kind of puts it into perspective. I'm very visual, so going and seeing a lot of this, I think it really, it makes you see and realize what's happening.
I think it was at Mr. Keith's co-op, I think. We were turning up doing an install, and I think it was a single wide trailer in the middle of a field somewhere. And to me, I'd had a bad week. I was tired. My wife was chewing on me for not being home. I don't remember what was going on, but it was a bad week. And so we got up early that morning. We rode out there to oversee or watch that install, whatever we were doing. And there was a little kid. It was in the middle of summer. There was a little kid. He was probably 7 or 8, and he's standing on the little stoop of that mobile home, and he has got an Xbox or something in his hands, and he is jumping up and down like Santa Claus is coming. And all he wanted, every time that installer would walk back in and out, hook this up for me, hook this up for me, hook this up for me. And he was so happy. An installer finally took it out of his hand, went in there, hooked it up, got that box online, and I could hear that kid laughing from outside. I never went inside, and it just made me realize, internet, to be honest with y'all, internet's never been really important to me. I'm a baseball guy, so if I can, sit and watch baseball on TV or go out in the backyard, I didn't really care about internet. But to see that boy, as happy as he was, to have his Xbox or whatever it online, so he could do whatever it is you do with an Xbox online, he was so happy. I mean, I could hear him laughing inside. He was just ecstatic. And his mama was, standing out front. I turned to her and I was like, well, he seems to be pretty upset about the internet, and she laughed and she said, I was more excited about him, getting it for school. He's more excited about that. So both of them were happy. And it was kind of God telling me that particular day, hey, there's a reason for you doing what you're doing. There's a reason for you being away from your family. There's a reason, to do this, and there's a purpose behind it. And that little boy showed it to me that day with his Xbox jumping up and down. Because, he's coming off the ground high. He was excited. And I left there with feeling a little bit better about, what we were doing, and it was a good feeling. I liked it.
I know that feeling as a dad. Most of y'all heard me tell this story, but, I actually got to experience this from, both sides. Mr. Steve Foshee sitting back there at Tom Bigby in Alabama. Prior to working for Logicom, I was in youth ministry for about 20 years and had lived and worked there in Winfield. And Steve started talking about this fiber thing that he wanted to do. And he said, "What, you think it's a good idea?" And I'm like, "Steve, I get like a meg at my house. Like, I don't even get pictures on the internet. It's just text describing what the picture would look like if your internet was fast enough to download this." So like, yes, as fast as you can build this. And so in the process of them turning things up, the church was kind of an early friendly, and I won't ever forget, we got, fiber at the church building like 2 weeks before Christmas in 2017. And my boys got an Xbox One for Christmas that year. And so we get it out, and we always travel back to Tennessee, when we lived down there to be with the family on Christmas Day. We unbox this Xbox, and they hook it up and plug it in. And like the download thing is like in years, not minutes or hours. And they're like, "We're not ever going to get to play this, are we?" And so as a dad, that's just soul crushing, right? And yeah, you want the education, you want that, but you also want to be, Superman to your kids. And so I'm like, what in the world? It's like, let's watch it for a minute. It got longer, so I was like, all right, what are we going to do? So I packed that whole thing up and we drove to the church building and we hooked it up. And everything downloaded in like, 30 seconds. It was just like that. And they were excited, and they were like, "Okay, you can go home, and we're going to stay here." So there's just, and you hear stories like that, not just from an entertainment, but like all these different ways that, it's affecting people's life. It's just.
And now working from home,
Oh, yeah.
It's become a necessity, a requirement.
Yeah, you only have to dress halfway for work, right? Just don't stand up. But yeah.
Or wear a robe, Bobby.
Yeah. Now, Bobby, if you don't know, and Bobby Dre too, are really bad about showing up to company meetings in their robe. And so what some of us did at Christmas time when we sent out gifts, they both now have a Logicom embroidered robe that they can be official, when they come.
Looks a little more professional.
Looks a little bit more professional, I don't know if Bobby and professional is said in the same sentence often, but, Yeah, so, yeah, with the past year, schoolwork and, doctor's appointments and just.
Yeah, telemedicine.
Telemedicine and just connecting with family. I don't know how many stories we've heard about people that, haven't seen their grandkids except on Zoom for months or even a year. The connection, it's no longer, a luxury. It's no longer something that I'd really like to have. It's kind of becoming a necessity. When I went to work for Logicom, when we moved back home, I was looking at buying my grandparents' place. They didn't have internet. That was going to be a problem, and so I was able to finagle around and get that done. But, 85% of the county just was out the windows, places we could actually live, because, I had to have that to function and to do my job. And so
To see Bobby in his robe.
yeah, or see Bobby in his robe. Maybe I don't need internet access. When you think about, Jamie, when you think about goals, you think about the future, and just sometimes things you can't foresee that get things off track. From a PM standpoint, what advice would you give to folks that are to cooperatives or municipalities or doing projects, just to help track different vendor items and just ensure that everybody's on the same page? It's not, I don't know that it's necessarily about, calling everybody out, but it's about...
It's accountability. I mean, it's making sure that you're building a puzzle and that each piece fits together. And so if construction doesn't have anything to do and they're sitting there, then that's a problem. If you don't have material, that's a problem. So making sure that just all of these different pieces fit together and move forward at the same time is really important to keep everything going.
All right. Any insights that you would have into that as far as just, what are some of the things that maybe folks don't think about that can become a big problem if you're not?
You don't want idle time. I mean, you don't want you don't want any resource sitting around doing anything. So, you always want to make sure that, everything is timed to where if one thing is ending, if one DA is about to be complete, you're ready to go to that next one. And so that everything just is constantly flowing forward, because any stall time, I think, everybody knows that contractors can leave. They want to go to the next best thing, so making sure that, you always have something for somebody to do, and the material there, it keeps the project going.
It feels sometimes like what I see Jamie doing is, my wife has a family calendar, right, that we all have on our phones, and I have 2 teenage boys, and they've got football and golf and, baseball and, this thing and that thing, and she's got this one calendar. And it's like, we probably wouldn't survive, without her saying, okay, you got to be here, he's got to be here, somebody's got to pick this kid up, somebody's got to do this. We still have to eat, and have you done your part so that this person can do their part is kind of what sounds like you're talking about there.
It's the most important piece to me, is what she's talking about, the tracking. Everybody wants to go fast. We got to hurry, we got to hurry, we got to hurry, we got to hurry. We do 40 miles, we're going to do 100 miles. You got to go fast. To me, tracking it makes it slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Tracking makes it smooth.
And it's a butterfly effect. I mean, we're always talking about how one thing affects everything. If one thing kind of goes wrong, that ripple that goes throughout the project can make a big difference. And it can halt production. It can halt, being able to complete a project. It can cause problems.
Make members mad. If you don't have something, you don't have that last splice case that, your splicer may have forgotten about. If you're not tracking when it was spliced, what the light levels were of the splice, then you don't know that it happened, and you go to install, nothing's ready, and now your member's upset. Or if the member calls in and wants to know, where am I at in the process? When you come into me, you can go in if you're tracking it correctly, and you can identify what DA they're in, what MST they're supposed to be hanging off of, has it been installed, all those things. You can answer so many questions. Keep your member informed so they're not, wondering what the heck's going on, because they're going to wonder. But tracking to me is, I don't think it's.
And it's good to keep the
enough.
Board informed, just enough information to,
Make them not
make
ask
them
any
feel
more
good.
questions.
One of the things that we haven't talked about as much here, and I don't want to steal their thunder, because some of, part of what these guys do and Jeff's team does is also not just the project and account managements, but the, the network side, and I'm not going to ask any technical questions here because none of us are qualified to answer those questions. And there's going to be a session tomorrow where they're going to talk about some of those types of things and, answer some questions and have some discussion there in that regard. But maybe just would you guys touch on a little bit about, the importance of having those types of guys in your arsenal as a resource to, work and help build out these networks for utilities?
Well, if we didn't have a good, a good network side, then, you might as well not do it. You just don't even do the project. If you don't have capable people that can build that electronic side of that network, putting fiber on a pole is easy. I mean, at the end of the day, it really is. Splicing it, time consuming, but, relatively easy. What we do compared to that network piece is relatively easy. We scream at each other a lot, but, it's easy. The network piece is hard. There's so many things that can go wrong that you don't even know could be attributed to something in that network. And it's just, to me, it's just a big, major piece of it. And it scares me because I don't know anything about it. I just say stuff like Adtran and Juniper and stuff like that to make me look like I do. But it scares me. But it's so important to me to have a good backbone, a good core network. That's all I know about it, that it's very, very, it's like oxygen.
Is, in your experience and just, really kind of watching these guys from afar and the stuff they do, is there a difference in, turning up, creating, building a network versus maybe maintaining a network over time?
Without a doubt. Maintaining it, there's so many things that they have to maintain. I mean, just like it is, there's upgrades, there's software, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, one thing I've always kind of thought, I mean, I've been in a lot of huts and I've seen a lot of guys, in there on keyboards doing all type of stuff. It seems to be pretty easy just to kind of, and those guys are probably going to get mad at me, but it seems to be pretty easy just to kind of turn it up. But once you put traffic on it and once you get members on it, subscribers on it, the amount of, I don't know what the word would be, the amount of focus they put on to just looking at stuff, and I don't know what they're looking at. They're looking at their screens and they're watching dials and all kinds. I don't know what they're doing, but the amount of time they put into doing that is crazy to me. Doing friendlies. I mean, yeah, it works. All right, let's move. Let's install. Well, no, we can't. We got to let it. I call it soaking. I don't know what they call it, but we got to let the network soak. We got to try to break it, bend it, make it do things that it's not supposed to do. I'm like, all right, we got friendly on there on a Monday. Let's start turning up customers on Tuesday. But just maintaining it, it's what? It is frowned upon. It is. But, general managers like it, but, board likes it. But the maintenance of it, to me, I remember when I worked at C Spire, having to fool with that, not fool with it, but having to be somebody that was waiting on maintenance was, and the maintenance windows are in the middle of the morning. So who wants to do that? But
The best I can tell you about what they do is when they go in and build out a hut, the wires look really pretty. They're really straight. I like that.
and if they don't, they will holler at you.
Beyond that, you're going to have to
If you
ask
happen
them.
to be the guy that has to go plug something in and it does not look really, really, really good, they will holler at you.
So looking forward to, having them in one of our breakout sessions tomorrow, talk about some of those things. If you have interest in that, look at that on the schedule. I invite you to be a part of that. As we kind of start to wrap up here, talk a little bit about just at the end of the day, why you do what you do. Maybe, share a story or two from that you haven't already from some experiences that you've had.
Mine was a dude with the Xbox. I mean, that was it. Why I like doing this is to meet different people. I mean, just to share in my youth, going through and learning these things, which was not that long ago, Nick. I'm not that old, but you know, when I was learning these things, I worked for several big companies that just didn't care. You know, it was all about the dollar. And one particular company I worked at, I was fortunate enough to be involved in fiber to the home in some really rural parts of the state of Mississippi, and I enjoyed it. It was, you know, you felt like you were doing something, and then, you know, we kind of got put into another umbrella, and they started doing fiber to the home in, you know, some of the fanciest neighborhoods in central Mississippi, and I thought, well, that's not really fair. I mean, they have options, they have choices, but to be able to you know, work in some of the places that I've been, and to share that knowledge with them, and to build relationships, you know, with them, you know, like Mr. Ronnie and Brad and Sean and Jason. I mean, you feel like you're a part of something that they're doing, and they're excited about it, and it makes you excited about it. I mean, I've enjoyed talking to some folks that I haven't seen in a while today, and hearing how their project's going, and just to kind of, you know, have a little sense of some, like I contributed a little bit to that, and that makes me feel good to know that if I did anything, you know, some small thing, in some small way, I was able to contribute to the success that they're doing, and I like that, and I like to meet people, I like to talk to people. It's probably not really apparent right now. Those lights are really bright, y'all. I don't know if y'all realize that, but it's really thrown me off.
See you, my dear.
But you know, it's meeting people and helping contribute to what they're doing is, you know, when I started doing stuff like this, I didn't realize how important that was going to be. I never factored in the relationships that I would be able to build with people that you know, otherwise I never would have met, you know. You know, I never would. Mr. Ronnie, I keep using his name, but that man's been like a mentor to me. You know, he's taught me so many things. And if I
So are you saying he's responsible for you?
He's responsible for what I am now.
Okay.
Y'all should have met me before I met him. But
I think he's still got some work to do. So schedule more time.
We're going to talk a little bit later this afternoon. But you know, if I never would have started doing what I'm doing, then I never would have met somebody like Mr. Ronnie, or met Brad, or met, you know, Jason and Sean and some of the board members. I mean, that's, you know, it's just, to me, that's what I've really enjoyed, is just meeting people and helping them, and then, you know, coming back a year or two later and talking to them and seeing where they're at with their project and how successful it's been. Because they're all successful. Everybody in this room's got a successful project, and you know, some of them I've been involved in, some of them I haven't. If it's successful, yeah, I was there. If it's not successful, I wasn't there. But you know, I enjoy meeting people and talking to them and sharing what I've learned, and I feel like I'm not the smartest man in the room. I may act like it, and I might convince you of that, but I do know some stuff, and to take what I've learned and be able to feel like I've contributed to some of the successes in this room is a pretty good feeling. I mean, it's a pretty good feeling.
So what you don't know about Jeff is not only does he help with, you know, project management, but he, you know, in his daily duties, oftentimes he has to, you know, do some cattle management. I don't know if you want to share that story, you know, just something that's completely irrelevant.
I was somewhere the other day. I was going to look at something, and I'm driving down this old county road somewhere, and I had to stop in the middle of the road because there was a calf smack dab in the middle of the road, little old 2-lane county road. So I roll the window down. I'm not figuring out I'm going to honk the horn or what, and I hear this voice off to my left, and he goes, "Hey!" And I look over, and it's an older gentleman, and he's sitting on his porch, and he goes, "You gonna get him out of the road for me?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess so." So I'd get out of the truck and shoo the calf back across the road into the pasture. That's
how he contributes.
That's his contribute, you know, to the community. And then I think he said, like, you know, one word after that or 2 words after that.
Yeah, I don't remember what he said. He said,
like good boy or something.
Good boy or good man or something. I think it was good boy. I think he said good boy.
So, you know, if you're having problems with that, you know, you are in rural America, so, you know, you need some help with your cattle management. Jeff's the guy. Jamie, what about you?
So I was actually on the phone with him one time when he was going to a member's house because we were trying to make sure we were putting the drop to the right house. And all I hear are chickens going crazy. So I'm thinking he's about to get attacked. And he's going, Mr. Davis? And he's like, who wants to know? Everybody's so like, why are you here? And he's like, well, I'm with the co-op. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, it's just, the demeanor changes, and it's like, oh, you're here for that. But yeah, Jeff meets some unique people.
That guy was funny because I went and I knocked on his door and he didn't answer. So I pulled around to the back of the house and I was walking through and there were chickens everywhere, and I was talking to her on the phone because she was reading, because she tracks things. She was telling me what number I needed to be looking for. So I hear the guy, or I see him coming around, and he's this older gentleman. He's got a long beard down to here, and he's got long hair, and he goes, who are you? And I said, are you Mr. Davis, or whatever his name was? Who wants to know? And I told him, who I was, and I said, are you Mr. Davis? And he said, yes, I am. And he said, you can't be just poking around in my yard. I'm very aware. I was in the military. And I was like, well, you weren't very aware. I knocked on your door. You didn't answer the dang door. But there were chickens everywhere. I wasn't scared.
What did he say? He said they might peck you.
Yeah, he said they might peck you.
They might peck you.
But I was not scared. So don't try to.
There was a scream, but we
Yeah.
won't.
So, the goal this morning was really to kind of help you see some of their passion and what they're about and what we're trying to do as we move forward as a company. We've talked a lot about this, and I want to kind of mention this as we, kind of close here as well. There's a lot of different people doing a lot of different things when it comes to utility and electric cooperatives and municipalities that are striving to, bring this connection to the rural areas. And there's a lot of people that are out just to take and get everything that they can get, and that's okay. One of the things that we have, talked about over and over and over again is, we're going to be selective about what we do moving forward, and we're going to take the right opportunities and look for those things that we can provide the best possible, service and partnerships to our partners. To be able to make their projects successful. Because at the end of the day, if they're not successful in what they do, we're not, successful in what we're doing. And so we want to try to be in the right situations with the right people, have the right, relationships, which is, a lot of what this comes back to. That's one of the things that Jeff's pretty good at is those relationships and working with vendors. Jeff, Jamie keeps them on track, and, Jeff keeps them going, and it's just a great team there.
Good cop, bad cop.
Who's the good cop?
She's a good cop. I'm the bad cop.
Okay.
You have to hold folks accountable. Y'all know that. You have to hold your vendors accountable.
I don't know if that's true. Jamie scares me more than Jeff does.
Wow.
But Jamie said accountability earlier. And
Exactly.
That's important to me is being able to hold them accountable. And I really like the way that we are trying to do this is because we will be able to hold engineering accountable, construction accountable, material management. I mean, it's, you pick good partners and then you hold them accountable, and you'll have a successful project. You have to be able to hold folks accountable.
It's easy to get blinders and just kind of see your piece instead of the whole picture, so.
Anybody that's just good with details scares me because I'm not, and that they're going to find my errors. If I hope your name tag is spelled correctly. If it's not, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did I get it right? Okay.
Wasn't on there, though.
I didn't get everybody's right. Where's Luke at? I did his wrong twice, and it's still not right.
Yeah, you got my name spelled wrong on that slide down there.
Okay.
There's an E on
Well, they
there,
can't see that.
But I can.
Okay. Send me a bill. All right, well, we're going to take just a short break here. As I said, Brian O'Hara's coming up next. We're going to be able to hear some things from him. He's also going to take some questions, hopefully, from you guys. We're looking forward to that session. He's really excited about it and being here, and virtually, which we couldn't do without internet, right? It's just another a reason for doing what you guys are doing. So talk to these guys. Like I said, there's going to be some more stuff. In the morning, we're going to have another session like this with Andres and Dustin, and they're going to talk about, from a voice and tech support side, some of the new things that have happened over the last year, some of the new tools and resources that you guys are going to have available, or currently have and are going to have available soon. So we're looking forward to that. There's going to be some breakout sessions and following lunch, right? Yeah, following lunch. One will be talking about taxes and compliance and all that stuff that I don't like, again, I don't want to talk about. There'll be another session where we're going to be talking about hosted solutions, VoIP type stuff, and Bailey and I are going to have that session, talk to you a little bit for those that are interested in, how to better sell and promote those types of things on your voice solutions. So we're going to pause right there, take just a brief moment to kind of get everything switched over, and so in about maybe 15 minutes we'll gather back here. So feel free to take a break. There's some water in the back. Restrooms are that way if you haven't found them. And just, again, appreciate you being here. Appreciate these guys talking about these things this morning.